welcome back to the 20-something podcast. My guest today is Shane Stewart, and today we're going to be talking all things grief. So I really wanted to discuss this topic on the podcast. Obviously, it's something that if somebody hasn't been through it before, inevitably we will all go through it at some point. So I think it's something we're not taught at school. There's no rule book to it. There's no guide on how to get through it. So yeah, it was something that I just really wanted to talk about. So thank you so much for coming on today. So Shane shares his story online with grief since losing his dad in 2023. And he's taken part in panel discussions, and he has set up his own run club to help other people going through grief. So thank you so much for coming on, Shane, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Hot and sweaty from the train.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all good.
I mean, it is like winter outside still.
Yeah,
but
it's weird. It's July, but winter. It's classic British summertime.
Classic, exactly. Well, on this podcast, I always go back to the beginning a bit of your 20s and just ask all of my guests to, just give us an overview of your 20s and I guess why you're here today.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I mean, it's obviously a big question to be like a decade. Think about the whole decade. I've just finished my 20s, so I've just turned 30. So it's like quite nice to have this whole like 10-year span to think about and talk about. What would best describe? I suppose beginning of my 20s, I was finishing university. So I went straight into university from college. Post that, I went travelling, which we just spoke about. I went to Southeast Asia, travelled around there, and then I lived in Australia for a few years. Learned a lot there, learned a lot about myself. Not the classic, I found myself travelling, but it was there. You just learn things as you're growing. And I think I went at a really, really good age that was naive, but also sensible enough to not do something stupid and just take chances, take risks, go with the flow of things, which is really, really good. And then I came back mid-20s, got my first job, started my career, which is in marketing, which is nothing to do with what I studied at university, which is classic to everybody, I think. I studied architecture and planning at university. Loved designing stuff, loved buildings, the flow of things. And then, just didn't want to do any of that when I went into starting my career. And then started marketing in the world of FMCG, so fast moving consumer goods. Learned loads that way, living in Leeds at the time. Then COVID hit, so I spent the latter end of my 20s sort of like dealing with that, which was obviously a bit of a pain for everybody. But it was okay. I was living in a really nice flat in Leeds at the time with my best mates, thinking we were living the high life. It was pretty cool playing Xbox all day and just figuring things out. Although I didn't play Xbox too much. Like my housemates would kill me at the time, but they loved it. But I was like, I hated not working. Absolutely hated it. I was like, I need to do something. I need to stay busy all the time. And so I kind of created a little bit of a side hustle then because I was put on furlough. So, I created like a bit of a social media business and branding for people, like using what I'd learned in marketing in the recent years. Really started looking at brands and helping people that were starting little side businesses within lockdown. So it's quite funny because mine was a side business within lockdown. And I was helping those little ones that didn't really know about marketing or branding or like just to make their like brand or their product look that little bit neater and nicer. So it was quite cool doing that. Again, learned loads from that, made loads of mistakes from that as well. Didn't have a clue how to bill people, invoice people, mischarged, didn't get money, didn't chase, did some terrible work. Learned loads through that. And then lockdown ended, moved to London. So I've been living in London for a few years now. And then unfortunately, lost my dad last year. So the last few years has been a bit of a whirlwind down here in London. When I moved down, I started a new job. So it was weird because it was only a few months in that job I then got the news that dad had cancer. And then all the way through sort of like, my current job, they've been there alongside me, like dealing with it as well, dealing with how my dad battled cancer, how I sort of like battled cancer for dad. And then also, when he unfortunately passed away, it was dealing with the grief of that. How do they, as a company, deal with that as well as myself? And it was it's a tricky thing to navigate. And as you mentioned right at the beginning, like nobody talks about it. It's just something that's kind of like bypassed. And when it happens, it's a little bit like, ooh, everyone puts their head down. It's like, oh, how you doing? It's like they don't really want to ask you, but they feel like they have to. Yeah. And it's a little bit like, no, you can't ask me. Like this is my everyday life now. Like I live without my dad now. I'm like it sucks, but I'm like getting used to it every day. Some days are harder than others. But it's a tricky one, and sort of like that's where I'm at. That brings me to my early 30s now, like entering this new decade, and I've kind of I look back and everything I've just said then is like that 10-year span of like finishing uni, graduating, traveling, falling in love, heartbreak of breaking up, starting my career, moving jobs, moving cities, like quite a lot has happened. And then to top it off with the end of my 20s, losing dad, it's like, as horrible as it sounds, it's like the negative cherry on the cake. It was just like, wow. And I look back at it, and I actually did an Instagram post on it, and it summed it up nicely. Maybe I should have just read that out, but but it was, it's a big old decade, and lots going on. And you look back and go, wow, like, where's the time gone? Like, I've done all that stuff. I've just listed all those things, but literally, I can remember the first thing. I remember being at uni at 20 years old, like it was yesterday. I remember being in Australia, picking bananas and farming like it was yesterday, breaking my back, slipping on snakes, and then being in a relationship and coming out of that relationship, and just learning so much all the time. So that's why it flies. That's why it goes so quick, because it's just like so much is going on all the time. And it's one of the things I'll always encourage people to do, is literally just jump in and just do as much as possible. Start things, do things, be with like cool people, like just do whatever you can. And that's I mean, this is the premise of your podcast as well. Is like looking back at 20s, people that are in their 20s or just starting their 20s. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on? What's going on in life? You know, just because I went to uni doesn't mean everyone else has to go to uni. I went to Australia doesn't mean everyone else has to have to go to Australia. Don't have to start your career. You can start your career earlier, like 16, 17, 18. It's like, there's all these different options. But yeah, that was my 20s summed up.
Yeah.
Rambled on a little bit, sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh,
because
good.
I think, you summed it up nicely there. As you say, like, obviously a lot has happened, and you had that not negative but sad cherry on the cake at the end.
Yeah.
But before that, it sounds like you did so much in your 20s, and I think that's a real span to show people listening that there can be so much that's going on as well, and then how you kind of navigate through kind of the ups and downs as well, and you say with work and everything else that went on.
Yeah, exactly. I think for anybody that's listening, that is like, they might have been in their career like 6 or 7 years, and they're only at 22 years old. If they started at 16 or did an apprenticeship or whatever it might be, you know, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm 6 years into my career now, but but actually I want to go traveling. Like, I want to stop. But how do I do that? I was like, I can't do that because it's a waste of 6 years. Like, nothing's a waste. Like at any point in those times, like through that roadmap of my 20s, like I ask myself all the time, like, is this the right thing to be doing? Like, should I be doing this instead of going traveling? Should I have started a grad scheme like a lot of my mates were doing? Should I be studying a master's to make sure I get that better chance of having that better career with the extra paycheck? Like, all these things. And I was just like, no, like, this is about me. Like, my life is about me. My 20s is about me. It's not about what anyone else is doing. It's fine for them to be doing that because that's their 20s, but your 20s is your 20s. And once you finish 20s, you're not getting them back. So.
I know. It's so true. And actually, quite a few people that I've had on have said that they wouldn't have changed anything throughout their 20s anyway. So, at the time, you can kind of question, is this right for me? Or should I be doing this? Am I too old? Am I too young? Whatever it is. But actually, like, it's your life, so live it. And as you say, you're not going to get it back. So just enjoy the moment, enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
that you're
even
on.
when it's bad, enjoy it. I know it sounds really, really like stupid, but like, it will be okay. Like, I don't know, like it's hard to say that, and it'll be hard, you know, you'll have listeners listening to this going, they're in a tough time and going, oh, I don't need to hear that it's going to be okay. But I've been through tough times. I've been at like really, really good times, like really, really happy times. And then you don't think about the bad times then when you're really, really happy, and it will be okay. I don't know how long it will be. There might be some more negatives along the way, but eventually it will be okay. If you do the right, well, I say make the right choices, you can make bad choices too, but it will be okay in the end. Just don't know how long that end will be. Yeah,
exactly. No, I love that. It always will be okay, even through the hard times. So bringing it back a bit to everything that you went through towards the end of your 20s, what made you want to start sharing your journey online? I saw that on a post you wrote about your dad. It was a lovely post, and you said that he would have helped anyone that he could, and you wanted to do the same. And I thought that was just so lovely. Tell us a bit more about that, and why you wanted to share your journey with him.
Mainly because I could talk about my dad for days, even if he was here still now. He's just like my like my role model, my biggest fan, like my cheerleader, hype man, father, best mate, like every single thing you can think of, like he was. So I smile when as sad as it is, like he's not here, but I smile about him every time I think about him and talk about him. So I knew when he passed, I was already kind of like documenting little things like that, you know, that he'd been diagnosed with cancer. You know, sadly 1 in 2 people will be diagnosed with it. And it's a horrible, horrible statement. And I think, a horrible fact, shall I say. But it was really, really weird because I remember hearing that sort of fact or that statistic. And before Dad had passed, before Dad had even been diagnosed, and 1 in 2 is literally either your mum or dad. Like, I'm not saying everyone's mum or dad are going to get it, but I started to think like, oh, I'm getting older. Like, I'm living down in London. Like, I don't see my mum and dad as much. And I remember hearing this statistic, and I was like, I need to be prepared if that is going to be my mum or dad. And literally, I remember just thinking it, and then literally, Dad like told us that he wasn't feeling like right in certain areas of his body. Mum forced him to go to the hospital. Mum's like proper Yorkshire, so she was like, right, get to the hospital. She's like, you going? And then so Dad was a bit scared of Mum, and took himself to the hospital, and unfortunately was diagnosed after a few okays and clears. It was really weird, and then he finally had his sort of like final tests, and that's when it came back that he had a tumour in his bowel, which was really obviously quite like shocking to hear. And then, but I remember Dad telling me, he told me over the phone, and he was so optimistic and so like cheery and saying it with like, because it was FaceTime, so he was saying it with this massive smile on his face. He's like, don't worry, don't get upset. He's like, it doesn't bother me. We're going to fight it. We're going to beat it. We're going to have a laugh and do all these things. And I was just like, how the hell is this guy is telling me that he's got a tumour in his bowel, saying that everything's going to be okay? And then I just knew I had to like start saying things and talking about it. And I've always been a big talker, and probably you can tell by me rambling on here. But always been a big talker. And I started sort of like documenting that Dad had been diagnosed with it. And, you know, a lot of people reached out to me saying they'd lost their like parents or siblings or friends in recent years that I didn't know about. Like, you know, friends from college, friends from university, and friends from traveling. I'd gone through stuff and hadn't even posted a single thing about it. And I was just saying those little things, and people were like, oh, just to let you know, I know how you're feeling because my mum's been through it, my dad's been through it, or even some people personally been through it, like had cancer themselves at a younger age. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is crazy. Like I didn't know that. So I was like, I need to keep sort of doing this and keep the conversations flowing. So so it sort of like started happening whilst Dad was still here. And then, when he passed, I sort of like knew I needed to do something like, I wanted to turn the pain into positivity, so I wanted to create something which we'll go on to. But posting online was like a big thing that I knew was helping others, but also helping me. Like by talking about it, like writing things down on like Instagram stories that would only last 24 hours, and I kind of knew that they'd go. So I've always like put more stuff on stories than I have on the grid, because stories is obviously like a lot more in the now and then. So you know, I'm typing something, or I'm like taking a picture of something. And often it's of the sky, because I'm like looking up thinking of Dad. But the sky can be so beautiful, and I look at it, and that's when it kind of like gets me going. So I'll write something down. I'm like, this is how I'm feeling here in the moment, and post that. And then more articulated things I'll post on my grid, and have those conversations with friends. And I just knew that, it does help other people from talking about it, helping people that don't know how to talk about it. Because not everybody does. Like, it is a really hard thing. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back by saying, oh, well done for talking about it. But I know one of my main things is mental health is massive for me. Like, I've always been a massive mental health advocate and mental health first aid trained. I actually did that like quite a few years ago, like early 20s I was doing that. So it's always been a big thing for me, especially for males as well, talking about mental health. So I suppose that was another avenue of it, and going, okay, like I've learned these things. I've known how to sort of go about it, how to talk about it, how to not talk about it to certain people in certain ways. So I think that's sometimes really like powerful as well, as like knowing when not to mention certain things. So sorry for rambling on as always.
No,
but I just knew that like by talking online, by posting things, like it's it was helping people understand my journey, the journey of cancer, the journey of grief, and I didn't really know I was going to be doing all that. And it was just started happening. I just wanted to talk about it, and like I say, I found myself talking about it to friends and family and openly, and work colleagues and anyone that will listen to me, supermarket, Sainsbury's checkout person. I'm like, if you listen to me, but they're thinking, who the hell are you? What are you going on about? But I'll talk to anyone that will listen. And likewise, I love listening. I love hearing what other people's stories are and what they're going through, and seeing if I can like help them, or they can help me. More often than not, they're helping me just from talking and me listening. It's like that's the beauty of conversations, the beauty of this podcasts in general, like hearing stories, hearing what people are going through, taking those little nuggets of like advice from people and thinking, oh yeah, I can apply that to myself. Because sometimes things don't seem realistic. They seem like unapproachable, especially when you've got like people doing amazing things now. And I don't want to take any value away from doing 600 marathons in a day that some people are doing, but it's like that isn't always achievable for people. And like listening to like and hearing like those really like sort of normal conversations and just hearing like little things and applying that to their day-to-day life, like that is really valuable. And I do that. I know I do that for myself. So if I can do that for others, then I'll keep posting about grief and my dad, really.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. I think that's so beautiful. Like what you said about the sky and hearing about your dad, he sounds like he was an amazing person. So thank you so much for sharing that. But I think that's so lovely what you said. Like, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for other people. And I think you're so right. Sometimes we don't know how to talk about it, whether that's to somebody who has lost somebody or even like ourselves. You don't know what to share, what not to share. And yeah, you might know that somebody is going through something or they've lost someone, but you don't know if it's the right time. And but then you don't want to seem rude or that you don't care about it because you haven't asked them, but you don't want to upset them or, you know.
That's it. I think the biggest thing about grief and the taboo of grief, that's why it has a taboo, is because they don't know what to say, like they don't know how to act, they don't we're all humans, and actually, like, despite some idiots out there, like, it's in our nature to be nice. And we don't want to upset anybody by bringing something up, so we just don't bring it up, and that's us being nice. But to the other person, it's like, why not bring it up? Why not asking me? Like, why? Because a big thing for me is when people ask how my mom's doing as well. Like, it's like, I'm not only grieving for me, I'm grieving for her. Like, she's just lost the person, love of her life, that she spent every single second of every day with the past 30 odd years. You know, the person she's brought two amazing lads up with. Shout out the brother. And yeah, it must. I can't imagine what she's going through. Like, we've just lost the same person, but her grief is completely different to mine. So I grieve for her as well, because I'm like, how crap it must be. I don't know if we can swear on it or anything.
Yeah, go for it.
How shit it must be. To lose the person that you spend every single day with. Because yes, he was my dad, and I've said all those things at the beginning of him, you know, being my best mate and my cheerleader and whatnot. But it was, Mum loved him. Like, Mum spent every day with him, and now that's just gone like that. And I'm like, I didn't spend every day with him. Like, I didn't see him every day. When I lived in Australia for 2 years, I didn't physically see him for 2 years, which is really weird for me now, because I've not seen him in a year. It's just, I think it's about 14, 15 months now. So to me, in the back of my head, I'm still a bit like, well, I've gone this period of time without seeing him before. So I still think I'm going to see him like tomorrow or next month or at the beginning of next year, whenever it might be, because I've already done that time. But my mum, she spent every single day with him, and I grieve a lot for her, which is a big thing about grief as well. Like, you know, you do start thinking about what other people are going through, and it changes like your mindset, changes like how you think about things. But yeah, I often find myself thinking about Mum, and just bless her, like, just being alone. She moved house, because that was a big thing that they were going to do. That they were going to move house together and downsize, because me and my brother don't live there anymore. And they didn't need such a, well, I'd say big house, but like a 3-bed house. They just needed a 1 or 2 bed. It's weird now to think that my family home isn't there anymore. Like, home is where the heart is, and home is where the family is. But it's hard to think that when Dad's not there anymore. So I'm literally like, well, it's not home, but it is, because Mum's there. So when I go back home to Leeds now, it's literally a left or right turn from where it used to be in the old house. So I get to the point, I'm like, oh, it's this turn now. And I'm like, I've still a few times gone right at the roundabout. But now I'm going left, and it's hard. And then it's those little triggers as well. It's that moment that I realise I've got to turn left at this roundabout, and that means I'm not going to see Dad.
It's like that reminder, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a reminder. And like, don't get me wrong, like, reminders come up every single day, like, however, in whatever certain ways. But that's a massive reminder of going like, oh, damn, I'm going to this house where I've got no like history or memories at. And we actually moved Mum into the new house, because she's terrible at like accounts and finances and things like that. So me and my brother took care of a lot of that stuff for her, because Dad used to do all that. So we took care of all that, and we moved her out she moved out the family house, and we sold that, and we bought her a house literally like 5 minutes down the road from her, closer to her sisters, close to a park, 'cause she's going to get a dog. That's going to help her massively, and I'm buzzing for that. But yeah, we moved into this house. Sorry, I'm rambling all the time. But we moved into this house, and that was a big change. So like, not only did we lose Dad last year, we sort of the family house doesn't exist anymore, and that's also like a massive physical thing, because like, not only like I'm trying to deal with things emotionally and like mentally, but like that's a massive physical thing. Like, say when I get to that roundabout and it's not right anymore, it's left, I'm like, oh damn, like that's weird. And I like get to this house, and I'm like, Mum's trying to start a new life there, as sad as that sounds. And I'm like, it brings me back to why I think about Mum a lot, because I'm like, oh, she's in this new house, Dad's not there. It just must be so weird and difficult. And like, I'm down here in London, like London the big smoke, like everything's going off, like things to do all the time. I can be on a podcast. I can go on a run. I can go to a new bar that's opened up, or like go to a new area, go see friends here, there, and ever in different areas of London. And it's crazy because mum just can't do that. And I'm like, not saying like mum should move down to London, but like it's different for me. Like my grief is very, very different. Like I'm keeping myself like really, really occupied with things. And mum like took an early retirement to spend the last sort of like year or so with dad. So now she doesn't have like a job either. So she's like trying to like gain new hobbies and try to figure things out. And bless her, she's trying to get her. We got her a Fitbit at Christmas. So she's trying to do her 10,000 steps a day. So she's like always messages me and my brother being like, done my 10,000. And it might only be like 1 in the afternoon. She's like buzzing. So she's like, I'm like, you can still keep going, you know, that doesn't mean you have to sit on your bum the rest of the day. So yeah, she's trying to find these new things. And yeah, like, so yeah, when I'll my mum means the world to me now, like just what she did before. But a lot of my focus is about mum, hence why I'm probably going off on a tangent speaking about her so much. But yeah, obviously I love her so much and just want to do stuff for her, make sure she's okay. Like I want to make sure she's always okay and that she will be okay. Like me and my brother took her on a holiday at the end of last year. It was like 6 or 7 months after dad had passed, and we were like, we wanted to let her know that she can still go on holiday. Like, because that's the thing that she would do with dad. Like she wouldn't go on, me and my brother hadn't been on holiday with family in over, 10, 12, 15 years like you do with family holidays. So it was nice to let her know that's like, we've sort of like, we've got you. Like we want you to know that you're going to be okay. And back to what I said at the beginning, is like, it'll be okay.
It will be okay.
For mum, I don't know when that's going to be okay, because I know she's struggling now, but like having me and my brother there for those little gestures and little things like that, it means the world to her. And yeah, making sure she's okay and happy and smiling makes me happy, okay, and smiling too.
Yeah,
so,
no, I can imagine. And I think that's such a good point, because I don't think anyone does really think of that side of grief, of like you're going through it yourself, but actually all of the other people that were close to your dad and loved your dad and knew him are also grieving, just in different ways.
Yeah,
and
massively.
It's like you're grieving the person, but you're grieving like the life that would have been ahead as well.
Yeah.
And such big changes.
Yeah, exactly that. It's massive, massive changes, not just for me, like immediate family is me and my brother and my mum, but like, yeah, the wider family too. And my brother actually got married a few months ago, which was amazing, and like just such a beautiful day. It was a beautiful moment and obviously very, very tough and emotional because dad wasn't there. And, but I remember looking over and just seeing his big cheesy smile and being like happy and being like, hey, thumbs up. And that, it got me going, it got me upset. And it was a great sunset that night as well. And the sun was out for us. And there's those moments where I'm like, okay, like there are big, big moments like anniversaries and things like that where they make you think about dad more, but it makes you really, really realise how much other people are thinking about him. And my uncle, so my auntie, so my mum's sister's husband, so he's not blood, but he's still my uncle. He was sat on the bench, just like staring over this lake where the sun was setting. So me and my brother saw him. We was like, oh, Uncle Bri over there. And we went over to him and was like, is that you right? And he said, wiped his eyes. And he was like, I'm just having a moment, just been thinking about your dad. And we were like, oh no, like what are you thinking? He was like, oh, well, I think about him every day. He was like, he was my best mate, and I miss him. And it just hit me and my brother, like we just cried into each other's arms.
God, you're making me cry now.
Yeah, it was a big moment because I'd not once thought about like Uncle Bri, how other people were thinking about it. And he was, he's like gearing himself up to then get on with the rest of the evening for the wedding. And he came out and, said he was like, he's my best mate. I miss playing golf with him, missed hanging out with him, miss him coming over, miss him going to ours or whatever it might be. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I didn't even think about that. And that's what I think since then has made me think about mum more in the sense of like, wonder what she's thinking. I wonder what she's getting up to today.
And she's probably thinking the same to you and your brother. Like, she's going through that, but how are you feeling?
Yeah.
How is it for you?
Yeah. And I think 100%. Like, she's always put me and my brother first. Like, that's what mums do. So no doubt she's thinking about that every time. She messages, she used to be terrible on her phone. Like, she didn't know how to work a phone. She used to have like an old school Nokia. And me and my brother and my dad had the WhatsApp chat, and my mum was like, oh, you boys chat, leaving me out and all this. I was like, right, we'll add you into the chat. And she said nothing. Like, she just did nothing.
Just a thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up, the classic, like thumbs up, massive days after. It's just like a thumbs up emoji. But she's got really, really good on her phone since, and it's great because that's how we're communicating now. And she sees the value in that. So she knows how much it means to just pick up a phone and go, how you doing, boys? Like, what's going on today? And she also at first like thought it was really annoying, like to be asking us that. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry for like always asking. I was like, Mum, you can ask me every 10 minutes, like what I'm up to, and I'll always tell you. I was like, don't ever feel that you can't ask me or like pick up the phone or do any of these things. Because 5 years ago, she'd hardly ever messaged. So she's learning these new skills as well, just as I am. So yeah, super proud of my mom, super proud of like what she's doing, and yeah, because it's like I say, it must be tough. I know it's tough for me, it's tough for everybody. But yeah, so yeah, grief isn't just about how I'm coping with it, but it's understanding that other people are going through it too for that same person, and that's the impact that Dad had on people. It's like, you know, how many people are grieving for him. Like, you know, I'd like to think the whole world was grieving for him because like he had, you know, such a big impact.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me is when people don't get to meet him now, like you said about the future.
Yeah.
It's like what could have been, and like who, you know, it's annoying. That's annoys me and hurts me that people aren't going to get to meet him that haven't already met him. Like my future, if I was to have a wife, or like, my future girlfriend, or whoever, my future partner, won't meet him. She'll know exactly who he is because of my stories and videos and my journey through grief online and stuff. But yeah, it's different. Like you approach things very, very differently and think about things differently. And that's the one thing that gets me is that future. Is like thinking, oh damn, it's so unfair. Like I just wish, I wish you could. Even if I'm walking past a randomer in the street, I'm like, oh, I wish you could meet my dad. But then people say to me, it's like, well, that's me now. Like me and my brother, my brother and that is mine. My brother's legacy is through Dad. Like carrying that on. Like we have that same smile as him. Like my mum loves. I'm always going on about my mum. She loves it when I come back home and she sees me walk through the door and she has a moment. She's like, oh my god, I thought you were, I thought you were Stu. She used to call him Stu. That's like, so my dad was in the army. So my surname being Stewart, they used to call each other by the surnames in their army, and my dad introduced himself to my mum as Stu. So then he pretended that he was called Stu Stewart, like Stewart, which was a good laugh. And I used to then say that to my mates as well. I was like, oh, he's called Stewart. It's like so good they named him twice. So yeah, she always says, oh, I thought you were Stu for a minute, and she has this little moment. But she also like enjoys, like she's like, oh, I get to see him type thing, which is right. It's a really like wholesome moment. Like so I'm glad that she gets that. But yeah, going back to like the legacy and yeah, people get to know my dad through me and my brother now. So again, which is why, you know, I want to be able to talk about it and come onto podcasts like this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, no, you're welcome.
Because it's a massive thing. It's like, it's not about, you know, the guests that you have on this show, on this podcast, shall I say. It's about you as well, and giving people the opportunity and the platform to speak about things. And
yeah, exactly.
It means a lot.
I just want to make people feel comfortable and just feel like we're just having that chat.
Yeah.
When I messaged you to ask if you wanted to come on, you said you could talk about your dad all day, and I just love that so much. And I thought, oh, you'll be an amazing guest, and just I love hearing about it because I've only just met you, but obviously I've not met your dad, so it's amazing to hear that and just to see it through your eyes, and just I can just see from looking at you like how much you're smiling when you're talking about him, which is just so lovely. So
yeah, and that's the big thing as well, is like, obviously I think people expect me to be like down and sad all the time. Don't get me wrong, like away from camera, away from social media, like I have horrible moments which we'll probably talk about, but like I can like, I'll just cry and it'll come out of nowhere. And I have these days where I don't want to see anybody, I don't want to speak to anyone. I was like, social media's crap, I don't want to post on there. And then I'm like, next day I'm like, right, okay, I'm feeling a bit more myself. I want to talk about that again, I want to do this. So yeah, I'm not always like buzzing and happy, but I tend to be, because that's my attitude, because that was his attitude. And I've said it before, like I just want to be like my dad. I know that sounds like such a cliche. So what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I just want to be like my dad. But yeah, like I do, and you know, he was happy. Like he had the stresses of life as anybody does, but you know, look back at it on paper and go, you know, he had a happy, amazing, beautiful wife, 2 good-looking lads, and yeah, you know, a job that he was really, really good at, had its stresses as a job does, but like he had it's horrible to say like an average life, but it was a 9-to-5 job, 2 kids, a wife and a mortgage. Like,
but a happy life.
But he was so happy with that, because he was proud of absolutely everything. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's easy for now to like look, and like I said earlier about like the people doing exceptional things, and it's great that people are doing that, and I want to do exceptional things, and I want everybody to do exceptional things, but in their own rights and in their own ways. And Dad was doing exceptional things just in his own way. So it's like he wasn't having to do like crazy like challenges and stuff. He just lived this life that he just wanted to make sure me and my brother were okay. He had a happy wife. He was a classic like, happy wife, happy life. So yeah, it was I just want to be like him, really. So
yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So you touched a little bit on it with your uncle and sharing online, but how important was like a community to you, or like a support system, and how important do you think it is for somebody that is experiencing grief?
Yeah, massively. it's because it's really isolating. Like nobody knows. Like, it happened. Like suddenly it will happen to you. And we touched on it right at the beginning in the introduction. You said about it's something that was going to happen to everybody. And sadly, it's happened to me at this age. And I think at the end of my 20s, and I'm like, no, I was like, this isn't going to happen right now. And I'm like, you can get so like bogged down on being like, this is like my whole life's ruined now because my dad was supposed to live till he was 80, 90, 100 years old, and he was supposed to see my grandkids, and we were supposed to have this like 30, 40 years together, and that just shows you, like, when those thoughts shows you about how precious life is. And it's crazy, like losing dad, the amount of cliche sayings that become like really, really powerful. like I don't know, just like things like YOLO. It's like you only live once. It's like cringy little saying, but it's like when people say that, I'm like, yeah, YOLO. I'm like, yeah, go on then.
True.
I'm like, fair play for you. I'm like, if I have that little bit of a mindset of going, this might not feel right, or it might be a bit scary, or it might be just daft and funny, but YOLO, just do it, just go for it. I mean, don't go doing anything too silly, but yeah, it has like, it's like little sayings, and yeah, so community is massive because I was the first of what is my immediate friendship group, but after posting about it, I actually found that a lot of people had lost, and it sounds horrible to say that's great, but it was genuinely great to hear those stories and knowing that I wasn't alone, and people sending massive messages, taking the time out of their like evening, during the day, whatever they're doing at that point in time, and seeing my story or seeing something I've posted and gone and write a massive paragraph like that is about them, but also about me, and how not everything is about like, I don't know what I'm saying, but like they were taking the time to write those things, and I'm like, I take a lot of value in that. So yeah, community is massive. Knowing that you're not alone, knowing that you're not feeling isolated, knowing that you can reach out and people can reach out to you. I mean, and that doesn't have to just apply to grief. That can be like anything. Yeah. So the grief community, like, it's crazy because now my Instagram is just full of grief, like grief podcasts, grief, like people that do like runners and stuff like that. I know we're going to touch on running, but yeah, there's a lot of communities within grief out there. Networks, support networks, podcasts. I've met it's crazy. It's like I say, like my Instagram just changed overnight from like, still has a lot of football on there, but like football, cars, pardon me, all these little things. And it's like, now it's suddenly like quotes about grief, or like someone going through something, or stories and memories and all these things. And yeah, so community is massive. There's anyone that's listening to this that is going through grief or anticipated grief is a massive one as well. So it's about to hit them. Like, anticipated grief for me was when dad was diagnosed with cancer, and it then turned to it being that he would only have a few weeks left to live. So it's terminal. And then to me, so I was like, damn, I'm kind of grieving now because I'm already trying to prepare myself for when he dies. So anticipated grief is massive because you're trying to grieve for somebody that's still there. So it's a weird one. So you don't, because I wouldn't go around telling people to follow these accounts on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be. But actually, like, the more people that are following these things, even if they're not grieving or are going through anticipated grief, there's some great things. I don't know if I can do shout outs.
Yeah, do shout outs.
Yeah, so like and this is through me just happening to lose my dad and grieve, that I've now, met and spoke to and meet up and do things and collaborate with these like amazing people in this space. Like, there's great accounts, like Just Grieve, that's set up by Misha and Molly. Two amazing people doing like really, really great things in the community, creating safe spaces. Amber, who's set up the Grief Gang, she set that up like 6, 7, 8 years ago now, and she was doing grief before it was cool. She'd hate me for saying that, but she's got this massive community of people listening to her pod and listening to her just talk about like her mom and talk about her friend and talk about these people that she's lost, and having people on that talking about what they're going through, and it really resonates with people. And I think the more that people can follow that sort of stuff before they happen to lose somebody, the better. Because if people can just like it's not being prepared for it, but it's just knowing what say people that have mates that are starting to lose people, it's horrible, but like say I've got friends that have parents or siblings or whoever have been diagnosed with stuff. I tell them to like follow this stuff. I was like, prepare yourself for it, like listen and get yourself into the circle of people that are talking about it. And yeah, it's not everything's doom and gloom. Like, these people I mentioned, like, they're just normal people doing like talking about things and seeing the realness of it. And there's another one called If We Don't Laugh, which is set up by two amazing sisters, and they lost their mom, and they're just talking about normal things, and not grief doesn't have to be, like I said at the beginning, like a depressing place, being like, right, you can't smile now. You can't like laugh. You can't joke about. You've got to be dead faced, and you've got to be like, pardon the pun, but like you've got to be like that's not right. Like talk about it, embrace it, because we've said it before. Like everyone's going to go through it, and it's horrible. It's a horrible thought. And a cliche saying like live every day like it's your last. Like you've literally got to, because you never know.
Yeah.
I was lucky that I got to spend time knowing, when Dad was ill, I got to spend time with him. Yes, it's sad because I know he was going to pass away. But some people I've met, I have close friends that have lost people instantly, and it's absolutely horrific. And we're both grieving, but I'm not experiencing grief that same way, because I had that anticipated grief. I had that like threshold of knowing, okay, I knew what was coming. People that lose somebody instantly is next level. So that's why there's value in the community, taking it back to theirs, like so they know instantly there's a place to go to, so they're not alone. Because there's a lot of power in empowering people, power in knowing that people are there for you, or not even there specifically for you, just talking about things generally and going, oh yeah, I relate to that. So it doesn't have to be your friends around you that are like know everything about you. And sometimes it's easier talking to people that you don't have a clue, because you can just say things and like verbal diarrhea and just get it all out there, and people are like, oh right, yeah, I didn't know that, and like this and this. Sometimes like you feel a bit too shy to talk about it to your best mates, but that's why I want to change. That's why I want to be like, it needs to be in everyday conversations. So the power of community is massive. And I wholeheartedly request people to find those communities, and all you have to do is quickly search the word grief or anything, or any sort of like community that you want to find. It's there to find.
I actually found your page through Misha's page through Just Grieve, because I started following her and seeing what she was doing, and I thought it was so amazing. And then I saw that you did a panel with her for Just Grieve. So that's how I came across your page, and then I've started following stuff since. And it's so true. Like it's so incredible that people are sharing their stories, but creating this, sounds weird to say, but almost like a joy around it, and sharing like those moments, and seeing like little snippets from that panel, seeing that room full of people come together.
And that it was a really powerful panel, that, because I remember saying little things, and I remember looking across, or other people on the panel saying things, and every single one in the audience is like nodding.
You can see they can relate.
They get it. I was like, when else are you going to get that many people that get it into a room? You don't. Like more often than not, it's going to be people that don't get it. So the panel talks are really, really powerful. But that's why I want to share things on social media, is because I try to keep that like powerfulness of a panel talk, but just online, so that people like say they can just see something when they're having a bad day and go, oh, Shane, like that resonates with me, just as I do with other people. And it's the same with you for community as well. It's like you've the people you're reaching out to and speaking to and have those conversations with. Like it's great that like you've created this podcast, because they're able to go on this podcast and talk about what they're passionate about, but you're able to hear that as well, and you're creating that space. So you know more than most that the power in community from that side as well.
Completely, and that's why I'm trying to share different stories. Like I want to be able to share your story and hear what you have to say about grief, and give you that space. And who knows who could listen to this, or maybe they haven't gone through something yet, but they might find this in a year's time when they need it, and they can listen back, and it'll be really valuable to them.
All they have to do is, and I'm saying all they have to do, but it's you're making it easier and making it more approachable for people to find these things. And that is the power of social media. Like we all know, like social media can be like toxic and a hateful place, but like there's a flip side to it, and just hearing people's stories and seeing what people are doing and getting up to, and these spaces like people like yourselves that are creating so powerful. And you're right, like it doesn't have to be like person seeing it right there and then. I was like, my post only got 2 likes, and like nobody's gonna see it, I'll delete it. It's like no, post, like keep it, like show people the realness, and like they'll see it. And if they don't see it till a year's time, how great is that it's helping them at that time. And I always say that with my stuff, it's like I don't, I've not got hundreds of thousands of followers, like, but as long as I can help one person, like when I go on runs and my run club, and have people like joining that, and if it might, I'd love hundreds of people to come on it every time, and that's the goal. But if one person turns up and it's just me and them, and they've gone through something and they've found like help through what I'm doing, then I'm like, sweet, I've done my job there. It doesn't have to be 100 people. It doesn't have to be 100,000 followers. It doesn't have to be 100,000 likes. It's all about one people. And those 100,000 people are all individuals, and it won't be nothing without one single person.
Exactly. That's so true. I think sometimes you can get carried away with like what you measure as success, but that is so true. Like if you're just helping one person, then you've done your job. And I feel like that with this, actually, like just even yesterday I got a message from somebody who I didn't know saying that the
sorry.
podcast had really helped them.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously like my family and friends have been messaging me, but to get messages from people who I'd never met them before, I was like, wow, that's actually like, this is why I'm doing it. So true. But you've given me a nice little segue there into your run club. So tell us about that, how you set it up and what is it? And if people want to get involved.
Yeah,
if they're listening.
Running became like a massive part of my life through when Dad was diagnosed. I never used to run at all, like off the football pitch. Like I love playing football, so I was like up and down the wing running like a madman. But away from the football pitch, I just never ran. And then my brother did, my dad used to. But yeah, when Dad was diagnosed, I kind of just like picked it up. I don't even remember the first run. Like, you know, I really wish I had that like one moment. It was like I dusted off my running shoes and I'd be like, I went on this run and it was like, it set the tone for the rest of my life type thing. I was like, I don't remember it. I just started doing it. And then, I just found the value in the escape. I don't really like saying, because I didn't want to escape from what was going on, because you have to be very real with it and accept what's going on. But just getting away from things, having my time. I used to run at sunset. I used to like go out at sunset, and I know I mentioned the sky earlier. I just love the sky. I love clouds and like stars and what's out there. But sunsets are really, really powerful for me, because they kind of like create that like calmness. I love like that time of day, time of night. And so I used to run at that time. So I had that little bit of association with like, that's my time, that's my running. And it made it something really, really powerful for me. So it cleared my head. And obviously it's a bonus that it's physically good for you as well. Found a lot of power in running. And then once Dad had passed away, I remember meeting up with my friend who's like super creative. She's amazing. When people say about surround yourself with people like you want to be with, like she's one of them. And she helped me. We were having this coffee in Shoreditch, and I said to her, I was like, look, I want to turn the pain into positivity. I want to do something that's helping. Like, yes, I'm posting about things, but I was like, there needs to be something else. I was like, I want to create something. I don't know what. I was like, and she was like, don't create anything that you can't do already. Like, don't try reinvent the wheel. She was like, running's been a massive help for you. So like, why don't you just go running with people? She's like, tell people, create a run club. And I was just like, what? I was like, I can't create a run club. Like, I don't really know the first thing about running. Like, to me, back in the day, run clubs are like sort of like these elite runners, like doing these crazy things, like marathons all the time. And it just so happened to be that running has been, it's seen quite a boom in recent years, past year or so. So run clubs have like absolutely skyrocketed. And then I happened to create this one club, and I'm like, I wasn't actually following that trend, but it was more like, I want to create something that I found helpful for me that can help other people. So enter Step by Steppers. So the name suggesting, the name is kind of what it does on the tin. It's step by step. So step by step through grief, and step by step through the physical journey of running as well. Because literally everything is step by step. Like the grief is like even just your daily routine, like or you're stressed at work. It's like just figure it out step by step. But you can't get there without putting one foot in front of the other. So the name came about through that, and I was like, sweet, I'm onto a winner here. This is great. And then just started posting about it, create the Instagram. Put it out there. That's what I've been through and how it helped me. And then it's been a monthly run at the moment. So since I started it last November, it's like a monthly run. I've started doing more collab runs with like brands and agencies and other people doing stuff. And I did the massive one with Grief Gang, which Amber smashed, and it was quality. That I was so buzzing that Amber wanted to Grief Gang, shall I say, wanted to post about that and do that with me, because I was like, what? This is crazy. It's like, you've been in this grief community and created this community over the past 6-7 years. You've got 60,000 followers. I was like, this is mental that you want to do this for me. She was like, no, that's I remember her saying to me, it's like, it's nothing to do with the followers. It's nothing to do with that. It was like, it's about you being a real person and doing something good. And I was like, that was a bit of a moment where I was like, okay, I am on something. If someone in that space is saying that, then I'm like, this is what people need. Yeah. And like I say, like, it's just every single time, it's like, as long as that one person, I can help that one person. It's massive for me. So we do monthly runs at the moment. Now that we're going into summer, or it should be summer, it's raining outside. I'm hoping to do like bi-weekly. Hopefully I get to the point where I can go weekly, do different locations around London. But overall, I kind of want to make it nationwide. Like, I don't, grief doesn't just happen in London. Like, runners don't just run in London. So I want to be able to take it to every city, every village. Like, I don't know, like, I don't want to become the biggest run club in the world, because everyone has their local run clubs, and I endorse that, and go do your local run club. But this one it's just got that difference where you're meeting up with people that have been through something and people that get it. So running was a massive aid for me, and creating the run club, and that occupies my like brain a lot. Like, it occupies my everything really. It's like you with podcasts, no doubt. Like, it just takes up so much of your time. It's like it's such a passion thing, but like it can become such like it's like it takes over. But it's like when you're so into it, it doesn't feel like a stress. Like it can create the stresses, but you're like, well, no, what am I doing this for? Like, what's the reason? So yeah, so Step by Steppers is like my baby now. Putting all my time into that and hopefully growing that to evolve, like I say, to go nationwide. And not only, I don't want it to just be a run club either, because I want it to be like the power of movement as a whole, but also create like these spaces where people can link up, because I realised soon, I was like, wait a minute, not everybody can run or wants to run.
Yeah.
I had loads of messages at first being like, I really, really want to run, but what's the pace? And like, I've not run in years. And like, you know, I'm currently doing the couch to 5K. And I was like, it's okay, just come and run. I was like, we're not going fast. Like, it's conversational pace. But it is weird, because like you do break up into groups. And I'm like, I need to try, as I grow, like get pacemakers and, you know, sort of like solidify myself as a run club where like this like realness is happening. But yeah, I encourage everybody to like get out and run, but I get that not everybody is physically or, you know, able to do that or wants to do that. So how I can trying to figure out how I can evolve it to have people do other stuff. But sport's a massive thing anyway. So that power of movement will always be there. But yeah,
completely. Oh, it sounds like it will be incredible. You can do so much from that, and I think creating that space is just something that you should be really proud of, because I'm sure, as you said, like it helps you as well, but you don't know how somebody's feeling that day when they turn up, and if you can just help that one person, and I'm sure maybe it's the thing that people dip in and out of as well, depending on how they're feeling or what they're going through.
Well, that's it. Like I'd say, you know, people will come to one, but they're not come to the next, and I'm like, oh, what have I done? People don't want to do it. Like, what am I going to do? The whole thing's a failure, and you get imposter syndrome, and it's like, no, like they just literally were just busy, or like they weren't having a good day, and more often not, they've messaged afterwards being like, sorry, I couldn't come. So that community, that's that sense of community. They can actually, they have the you know, they're strong enough people. Like these people are like going through something so painful, but they're taking the time to message. And I said it earlier about people taking time to message. Like it's just so valuable. Like it's not just a message. It's not just words on the screen. It's like people are doing that. So yeah, so for somebody to like miss a run and then go afterwards and tell me why, I'm like, oh, it means a lot that because it means a lot to me that I want them to be there.
Yeah, of course.
I want everybody in the world to be at that run club. Like, so yeah, it means a lot when people will take the time to message, as you said earlier as well.
Yeah, no, it is so true. And I wanted to ask you a bit about, obviously, when you've been through such a huge loss, you don't go back to normal life, or I know people say there's like a new normal.
Yeah.
How do you kind of navigate that? Or in terms of, you touched a little bit on your work at the beginning, that journey with your company kind of went through that as well, but how, I know, so like sometimes you see things that's like, oh, take 2 weeks bereavement leave. It's like you're not going to get over such huge loss in 2 weeks. How do you kind of navigate that? What would be your advice for
it's tricky, because I remember like after lockdown, and there was like everyone was saying about the new normal people, but everything's gone back to normal. Like nothing's really changed. And it's kind of like that. It sadly is like that with grief. Like it does just go back to normal, and I think it's sad, because you want the world to know like nothing's normal anymore. Like how can it be normal? But yeah, like I am back at my job. I am doing things I was doing before, except Dad's just not here. And like, that is the new normal. And like, it feels, because I'm doing all these things I was doing before, like 2 years ago before Dad passed, it feels like he should be here. So I wanted to like, I thought I was going to have this massive, and I thought I was going to have this massive like change in life and like blah, blah, blah. But yeah, things do just like go back to normal, and you just got to kind of embrace that and understand that the world goes on, because there's times where like I'll message my friends about doing something, and they, you know, my mates are amazing. Like they'll always show up when they can, but sometimes they can't. Like not everyone's going to drop what they're doing like at the flick of a switch for you. And people have got to remember that. It's like people will like become very disheartened by, oh God, you didn't turn up to this, or you didn't do this, or like I'm always asking you to do this and you're not saying no. I was like, it hurts, but it's like people can't always change, and yet that's when you realise the world just goes on, because they've got their life to live as well. So it's like you've got to understand that people are living their life just as you need to live your life. And I'm a massive advocate of saying like go live your life. So how can I say to people like, stop what you're doing and come do this thing with me? It's like if they've got plans, they've got plans. That's that when you realise, okay. So yeah, so like sadly like it does just go back to normal. But you know, my friends will always like try to be there for me, and you know, said at the beginning like how do you deal with it, and how do I, the power of community, how do you figure out like what to say, what to do, who to reach out to, and like what do people do as well, like when you are grieving, like what is normal, because they're also thinking of you, going, you know, how is he feeling, like, and like I said, you don't want to be a burden by asking. So you know, figuring out ways. I've actually got a quote that I'm going to read.
Go for it.
I've got my little notepad. I don't want to misquote it. So there was one by it's about people like being there for people, which is obviously massive like through grief, and it's a quote by Adam Grant. And it says, in hard times, people don't want to be told to look on the bright side. They want to know that they're on your side. The best way to often support others is not to cheer them up, is to show up. And it's like a really, really great quote for me, because I'm just like, there's a lot of value in people when they do show up for you.
Yeah.
So like going back to when people said, when people can't do things, it hurts. But when they are there and when they show up, it means the world. Like it is so, so powerful. So like, yeah, my advice would always be to show up for people and like do as you'd want done to you type thing. And another little cliche saying.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, just that power in
true.
showing up, and that's what helps navigate that new normal, the normal life is people understanding like what you've been through, but time is ticking and things are going on still. And it's like, I am back in that job and I am still doing these things. I'm still playing for the same football team, whatever it might be. Like they have got to appreciate that as much as you need to appreciate it. Because if you don't appreciate it, how your friends can't either, or the community that you surround yourself with. So yeah, a lot of power in showing up for people and not just saying things when they mean it and they do it. It's really, really meaningful and really powerful.
No, I love that quote. I've not heard that before, and it is so powerful. And I think you can actually apply that to like not just this scenario, but so much in life. And it really is powerful. And I was going to ask you that, what would be your advice for trying to support someone who is going through grief? But you've just answered it there, and it's so true. Like just showing up for people and them knowing that you're there and you are thinking about them.
Yeah, and another bit of advice, and I've always kind of said as well, is just if you don't know what to say, don't not say anything. So I've always said about just sending a heart emoji or send an emoji that might mean something to you and that person. Because there's a lot of power and value in that. Because I'm like, they are thinking of me right now, and I've done that for. So unfortunately, my best mate has just lost his dad, and it's absolutely crazy because we're like two brothers, and then within a space of a year, we've both lost our dads, and I know what it's like when people are like messaging, and it's like, oh, I can't be bothered dealing with this. I can't be what you're putting it on me. Like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I don't know how I'm feeling. I don't know what to say. And he kind of like puts it on you, but a simple emoji, just sending that little love heart, means that they were thinking of you right there in that moment, and you might not see it until like 6 o'clock at night, and they sent it at 10 in the morning. It makes you think back and go, I don't know what they were doing, but they were thinking of me at that time. It's like they might have been sat at the desk, or they might have been out on a walk, but whatever they were doing, they were thinking of me. And it's really, really nice to receive that emoji. So I do that a lot. I do it with my mate. Maybe I send my best mate too many. I'm always like, ha.
He's like, stop sending the love hearts.
I love you, man. I'm like, oh, always love hearts. He's like, mate. But yeah, sending people a nice little emoji every now and then. And even if it's not like, even if they're not going through anything, like just a random out of the blue love heart emoji, or something that means something to you and that person, like special to them.
Just
like,
so they know that you're thinking of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's really lovely as well. I'm going to remember that because it's so true. It's just that power of like, you do think of people through the day, so just let them know, because you never know how they're going to feel from it.
Yeah, and then like when like music's playing, or like something's happened, or a coffee shop, or a beer, or someone you walk past and somebody said something, it's like, and it makes you think of them. Let them know that.
Just let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, sadly we're coming towards the end. I feel like we honestly could have chatted.
I know.
So
I told you. I
much.
said at the beginning. I was like, even off. I was like, I will chat for England.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we might have to come back and do another episode down the line.
Volume 2.
Yeah. Well, I always finish my podcast by asking my guests if they could go back to the beginning of their 20s, knowing everything that they've gone through. What would be the one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Massive question, and it's a great question. I bet everyone says that. It's a great question. Buy a little bit of time to think about what it is. Do question everything. So speaking of questions, question everything. In your 20s, question everything. Like say, like I said earlier, it's like, what will, go explore, go do these things, start something, question it all. Like, what does that mean, like, for that to happen? Question everything. Be nice to people. Be nice. I know it's really weird. And like, this is probably the one time where I can't get my words out because I'm trying to think of so much. But question everything. And also, obviously, because of what I've been through, is like, chill with your parents. If you've got parents, you're lucky enough to have parents, go chill with them. Like, go do something with them. Like, it's, especially in your early 20s, like when you like, if you are at uni or you're out or you're traveling, you're doing stuff, mid 20s, late 20s, whatever it is, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s podcast, when you're doing this in 50 years time, just go chill with your parents, man. It's like, they're quality. It's cool to do stuff with them. I think when you're a teenager, it's like, you don't want to hang around with your parents. Like, it's not cool to do stuff. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's cool. Like, go do something with your parents. Like, they're actually really cool people.
Yeah.
And then, take a lot of value in that, because you just, like, I lost my dad, and I'm like, don't ever get to chill with him ever again. Like, don't get to see him, don't get to hear him, don't get to hug him. Like, and I'd love that. So if you've got that, like, do it. Yeah. And then, hang around cool people. Hang around cool people doing cool things. That's a massive one. Don't stray away to who you are when you're in your 20s. Just be nice, question everything, chill with your parents, and do cool things with cool people, and you'll be all right.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so valuable. Like, yeah, I'm lucky enough to still have my parents, and I see that because I've seen friends who have lost theirs, and I'm like, oh, you have to cherish that. Yeah. So I think it's amazing that you shared that.
It doesn't. It brings me a lot of warmth when I see stuff through with the parents, and when you're doing a little teaser post earlier about the pod with your dad. And I'm like, it's so good. That's so nice that you're doing that. And I don't want people to ever think it's like to feel bad about doing things with their parents or with their dad. Like I see stuff, even like randomers in the street, like a young lad like my age or whatever, and with the dads like, similar age to mine. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. Like I'm just like, I wish they knew like how like important that tiny moment of coming out the shop is and going back home, because I don't know what they're doing.
Just cherish it.
Yeah, just cherish those tiny moments, and obviously cherish the big moments. It goes without saying, but it's usually the small things that you need to cherish, and you don't often do that in your 20s because you're so busy thinking about what you want to do for yourself, which is good. It's great, but like just think about others as well. And that's why I always say about be nice. Like be nice to people, because if you put niceness out in the world, niceness will come back to you. Yeah. Is that even a word? But we'll take it.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much, Shane. I think, as we said earlier, like even if this episode just helps one person, it will be amazing. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. On bottom from my heart, it means a lot to
and talking about your dad. He sounded amazing, and keep living his legacy, keep smiling and sharing that.
I will do.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Becca. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please continue to like, subscribe, share, and follow us on socials. See you next week for another episode.